Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for listening and welcome back to another episode of the Business Owners Freedom Formula Show, where we chat with inspiring entrepreneurs and dig into their highs, lows, and everything in between of their business building journey to learn about how they've been able to achieve their view of ultimate freedom. In today's episode, episode number 7, we have another great guest with us here today, and we are going to jump right in. We have Deacon Hayes, who is a personal financial expert, as well as SEO guru, who is best known for paying off $52,000 in consumer debt in just 18 months. Through his company, Well Kept Wallet, he has helped thousands of people develop a financial game plan so they can achieve their financial goals in life. He has been featured in the U.S. News, World Report, MSN Money, Yahoo Finance, and more. So that is Deacon Hayes from Well Kept Wallet and Phoenix SEO. Welcome, Deacon. How's it going?
It's going great, man. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. And I think your story is just as inspiring as any other entrepreneurial journey. So we're really going to dive into how you got started. Obviously, you're running more than one business, and we'll kind of get a better understanding of your journey to inspire others out there. So rewind back to when you first started your first business and let us know how that went.
Sure. So, well, it kind of started with my wife and I had $52,000 in consumer debt. And so we realized at the time we needed to develop a game plan to pay it all off. And so, long story short, I just studied people that were successful with money, paid it off in 18 months. We paid off 52 grand of debt in 18 months. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. How could I do this for other people, right? Like, how could I create a business around helping people set a goal, figure out the components to achieving that goal, and then executing and then actually achieving it, And so that's what led me to start Well Kept Wallet, which was just a blog at the time where we shared our story of how we paid off our debt to kind of encourage other people. And then from there, just started, snowballing as far as getting these different news mentions, which drove traffic to the site, learning SEO so that I could get more traffic to the site, help more people, getting affiliate commissions, ad commissions, and then, eventually having my own course. So, and then, in that process, I needed some more income because, when you start a business, it doesn't necessarily replace your 9 to 5, 100%, unless you've, got something that's amazing like Snapchat or something. But, so basically I created this SEO company where I learned the stuff from blogging, and then I started applying it to business. And I was like, oh, this works. So, that kind of started scaling as well alongside Well Kept Wallet.
Nice. So I assume you're still running both of those ventures today then, side by side?
Yeah, so I actually have a guy that runs the SEO company for me, but I'm still involved in it, meaning like big picture stuff. And, if he runs into snags, I'll come in and say, hey, here's my insights, that type of thing. But so I've kind of developed that to where it runs itself. And then Well Kept Wallet, I run that more myself.
Awesome. So what you hit on there with your Phoenix SEO business, I mean, that's really what we're all about here. Creating freedom, creating a business that can thrive without you. So what kind of systems and processes, and how did that evolve to bringing somebody on, probably over time, then all of a sudden they're running it. And it's really now for you, it's a really good stream of passive income where you only have to put in, maybe a few hours a week to just be that leader. How were you able to make that happen?
Well, the first thing was finding someone that was actually the right fit for running, the business. So this guy, Steve, is very interested in SEO. He's got a marketing background. He's teachable. He's very good with people. So he just understands the ins and outs. And so I was able to train him, here are my processes. Here are the things that I do. Here are the tools that I use to analyze a site. And then, doing that a number of times until he can then do it himself, right? So I've done screencasting, where I use Camtasia to basically, do tutorials. And then, I've got a YouTube channel where I put these tutorials up for him to view, and then, eventually other people that do those tasks. So that was one. Using Asana, that tool is amazing to be able to assign things to people and say, okay, Jeffrey, you do this. Josh, you do this. Steve, can you take care of this? So really, getting the right people, and then, teaching them my processes, using the tools that I mentioned, has helped me kind of step away and let the company run.
Awesome. You hit on a ton of great things that I definitely love. Even just starting with screencasting using Camtasia, that's really how I was able to scale my business and put the right, once you get the right people and you put them in a place to thrive with those training videos. For people out there that don't know what we're talking about, Camtasia, Screencast-O-Matic, OBS, there's a ton of screen recording softwares out there that you can use to capture an exact task that you want to train somebody up then to do. So Deacon can work from the comfort of his home, send these training videos over to his guys, and then they can execute. And then whenever they need to reference it, they do have that video there basically forever. And then using something like Asana to keep everybody on the same page and delegating, that's really exciting. And I think it really comes down to trust. A lot of people aren't comfortable delegating because they don't have these systems in place and they don't trust the people to do them without that support. So using those two things, we'll definitely link those up in the show notes to get you guys using those as well. And then let's kind of backtrack into paying off $52,000 in debt in 18 months. Obviously, when we're talking about freedom, being financially free is a huge part of it. When you're financially free and you don't have that debt, dragging along, you can do a lot more things. So what were some cool things that you were able to do to make that happen?
One of the things was sell our upside down car. I literally just bought this brand new car, and it wasn't the greatest thing. It was like a Nissan Altima, but it was brand new, right? So I loved the fact that I didn't have to worry about repairs and all that kind of stuff. But the challenge is it was like $400 a month car payment, and then plus the increased, registration for having a new car, and then when you repair it, like I had a tire blowout and it was more expensive than my old used car with, different types of tires. So when I was able to sell it, it was $1,000 different. So we came up with $1,000 by just selling stuff online. Then we freed up about $400 or $500 a month between that and the insurance to throw at our debt. So that's huge. I mean, that's like $6,000 a year. And then on top of that, I delivered pizzas at night, did anything I could. I'd stop at a yard sale on a weekend and I'd buy like a router for $5 and I'd sell it for $50 on Amazon the same day. There's just anything. I just had this mindset of like, however I can funnel money into my hands and then put it towards my debt. That's exactly what I did.
Awesome. And those are a lot of things that people usually don't see. They might see, someone successful on the outside, like, oh, look at them. They're lucky. They don't have any debt, da, 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 da. They don't know that you were delivering pizzas and going yard sailing and, selling a car that you had just bought, because why would I sell a car for less than what I owe on it, all that kind of stuff. But it frees up all that money. And it reminds me of, for anybody that follows Gary Vaynerchuk out there, he is always preaching, like, if you don't have any money, go to yard sales, buy something for $5, sell it for 10, you just doubled your money. Do that again, and stop complaining that you don't have any money. And then delivering pizzas at night, I think it really hits on, we have more time than we think. We just choose to spend it differently than, anybody else. And when you choose to spend your time at night from, 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. delivering pizzas, that is definitely to be commended. So now that you are debt-free, obviously you're helping other people do the same. So what are, other than those, grind it out, do those type of things, what are some of the things you see, especially from a business owner standpoint, of, quick fixes that they can do to get a little bit closer to that freedom?
Yeah, the first thing I always tell people is get at least $1,000 in emergency fund to be kind of a buffer between them and debt. Because what happens a lot of times, and this is what happened to us, is emergencies would happen or expenses would come up like, oh, how am I going to pay for my honeymoon? I got a credit card. It's really like having that emergency fund. If you got a flat tire, you use that. You don't use a credit card. If you got, our hot water tank broke while we were paying off our debt, we had an emergency fund that helped, right? So once you have that, then just developing a plan to pay off any debt if you have it. And I love the debt snowball method that's famous by Dave Ramsey, where you pay off the smallest debt and then kind of work your way to the largest debt, regardless of the interest rate. And it's all about behavior, just like tackling one at a time, having a method and getting it done. So those are some basic things. And if people don't have debt, like you said, they're in a much better position to where, okay, they can now start investing in their business, investing in real estate, investing in, retirement, whatever those things are that can create the long-term freedom that they're looking for.
Excellent. And definitely totally agree. I think a book that comes to mind is Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, of, what are you going to do with that money? You're either going to pay it to somebody to pay your debt, or you can use that, like you said, you can reinvest it in your business, reinvest in real estate, and your money starts working for you, especially when your business doesn't need you to survive and thrive. So like your SEO business, you have people in place and you can continue to put money in there, and it's not an expense, but it's really an investment to continue to grow it while you can leverage your expertise with well-kept wallet. So that's really exciting. We're going to kind of bounce around here because you're doing two totally different things, it's really cool to have the freedom to do that. So digging into the SEO a little bit, a lot of people say SEO is dead. It's all about paid traffic. Who cares about how much you rank in Google when you can just pay to be on Facebook or pay to be at the top? What do you say to those naysayers out there, and how have you been able to leverage SEO for both of your businesses?
Yeah, so I don't think SEO is ever dead, right? Like if you're listening to this, if you were to go to a restaurant and you're in a new area, what are you going to do? You're going to Google, right? I mean, you might talk to a concierge, but typically you're going to Google. If you need directions somewhere, you're going to Google. I mean, I Google. It'd be interesting to see, like, if you were just to take the next day and say, how many times do I use a search engine to search X? It's still necessary. It all comes down to content, and it sounds so basic, but really, does the person's content answer what the person's searching for? And if it doesn't, if it's not the most thorough piece, then why would Google rank it, right? So you want to create the most thorough piece of content. And even if you didn't want to rank it, you should be doing that anyways, right? So, and then for Well-Kept Wallet, we take advantage of paid traffic tremendously. So it's not an either or, it's a both and, right? So we want to say, hey, we'll maximize the opportunities out there. Want to rank in the search engines as well as take advantage of paid traffic, as long as you have the right metrics in place.
Awesome. And you hit on something that I think is really important and often overlooked, especially for a local business owner, small business owner, is content, and providing that value, providing that extra things that other businesses, which would be your competitors, don't do. And we often talk about how whatever business you have, there's probably somebody within a 2-mile radius of offering the same service, same product in the consumer's mind. So how do we set ourselves apart? Providing that value with that content is huge. So, if you are a local business, what are some good recommendations to get them just started in kind of producing content on a regular basis to, bump them up there?
Yeah, and it's actually, so in our perspective, it's not really producing content on a regular basis. It's making sure that the content that you do have is the right content, right? So let's just say you're a stone care company, right? Like you do cleaning for stone, right? Do you have pictures before and after? Like, hey, do you have the chemicals that you use? Are you green, right? Like, do you use like chemicals that are safe for pets and for kids and for the earth, right? So you kind of go through all of those things that, like, what would a consumer be looking for? Right? And then answer that in the content and be very thorough about it. So when someone searches in Google, they come to your site like, oh my gosh, they use green chemicals. Look at these before and after pictures. Here's testimonials of people that have used them. Here are other companies, like large companies that I recognize that, they've done work for. And so now this person's like, yes, like this is what I need. And then they call, so you're really just trying to make the customer confident that they got to the right place.
Awesome. And I like to, any business owner that I talk to, when they're even looking to just talk systems and processes, you really just hit on it, and answering those questions before they actually come up. Who's going to do the work? What kind of work do you do? What products do you use? What services do you use? When you can answer all those questions before they actually come up, obviously it's going to build that know, like, and trust factor, with the customer. They already kind of have a good feeling of what your business is, what the culture is, and what kind of brand and that they're going to spend money with. So I think that's really important, that they don't have to hop on and, write a blog post every day, especially if it's not relevant and it's not going to answer questions. And I think that's often overlooked the key is answering your customers' questions. If you can do that once on one page and you're good to go, you're good to go. I think that, where people struggle is they don't even do that. They just want to, they don't really see the value in that. Well, I'm a local business and, I don't really need that. I'm good without it. So I think that's really important, just to answer your customers' questions before they actually, come up. So kind of fast forwarding to now, you got your businesses running. What is a normal day? What does a normal day look like, for you these days?
So I have 2 kids. So, the first thing is getting them squared away for the day. feeding my son. My wife, my daughter is only 3 months old, so my wife usually takes care of her in the morning. Getting him to school, we play for a little bit. And I actually bought a co-working space, so I have a third business. We don't need to talk about it, but it just needed a place to work out of.
Awesome.
And so it was a good fit. And so the idea was, so I could come here and I actually get to meet with other entrepreneurs and talk to them about what they're doing and that kind of thing. And then usually by like 9:30, answering emails, kind of checking in on things. I like to pre-plan. So if I, have this interview today and things like that. So things I know like a week in advance, I know, hey, I have this thing to look forward to. I got to prepare for it, that kind of thing. And it really varies, right? Because, yesterday we had a client that got an email from a host from the SEO company and, Steve wasn't available to take care of it. So I just took care of it, but I don't do that all the time. I just do it because I'm like, I want this guy to get taken care of,
Right.
So, but a lot of times I'm really kind of focusing on vision casting, as far as, for Well-Kept Wallet, what type of content do we want to produce? How is this going to look, when it comes to the site, Facebook ads, that kind of thing. So I have a graphic designer that comes in and works in the co-working space. And we actually have this cool setup where I've got a second monitor where he shares his screen from his laptop on Google Hangouts. I can see him designing in Photoshop, and then I share my screen via Chromecast to a monitor sitting right next to where he is, so he can see my screen. And so if he's designing something, I'm like, hey, this is what I want, and he's like,
how cool is that?
Yeah. So, so it is kind of cool that not every day is the same. There's definitely different focuses depending on what the need is. But, we do have kind of a system, but then every once in a while we have that flexibility to, if I didn't want to come into work, I don't have to, kind of thing.
That is always nice to have that freedom and flexibility. And you brushed over it really quickly. You do own a third business, which is a co-working space. And I think co-working spaces are phenomenal, especially for any business owner out there, because a lot of times we feel like, we're kind of on an island, we're running our own business, and you don't get that, kind of interaction like you would if you went to an office setting and, you're working your 9 to 5. And to be able to mastermind and just network and collaborate with, people in a space like that, I definitely recommend anybody out there, to check out your local co-working space. I'm actually, tonight, I'm going to a meetup at our local co-working space, which they just launched about 6 months ago, and it's a really cool thing. So just hit on that real quickly. What kind of value do you see for, business owners to kind of check out their local co-working space or some sort of mastermind to get together with other business owners?
Yeah, well, so I view those as two separate. So I actually have a mastermind that I meet with on a weekly basis, which is I do it through Zoom to be able to connect with people in my niche that have very similar passions and interests, and we just really connect. That's super crucial. I don't know what I would do without it. I mean, it's grown my business exponentially because I can run ideas past people. They know what I'm talking about. It's not foreign to them, and they say, oh, this is what I would do. And then I do it, and then I see the results. But the co-working is even another benefit because those are people that aren't necessarily in the same industry that I am. And so I get to kind of get these different perspectives and see what they're doing and help them any way I can, and vice versa. And so it does have those components of almost like an office atmosphere. Like one of my favorite TV shows is The Office.
The Office, yeah.
And when I watch it, I'm like, that's what I missed about working, a traditional, W-2 type job is you kind of have this, you go in and you have these people that you can interact with, and every person has a role and that kind of thing. And, when I first started, I was working out of my house, and, it's kind of lonely, and, I got dogs and they bark, and it's a totally different atmosphere. So in a co-working space, you got people that you can go in and you can say hi, you chat with, and you can have, deep conversations or light conversations, and it feels like an office environment, even though you work for yourself. So that's been very helpful as well.
Awesome. Thanks for digging into that a little bit further. And I totally agree, for both. Masterminds, totally crucial. I do mine online as well using Zoom, and then going to local co-working spaces or just going to meetup.com and seeing where other places people hang out that are, business owners. Definitely recommend everybody out there check out both. So now here we are today. You got 3 businesses going. What are the future plans for Deacon and all these ventures?
So the future plans is just to honestly to scale them, but to step away, right? Like kind of the 4-hour work week model of, figuring out the ways to systematize everything. And I just love finding good opportunities, seizing them, putting the right people in place, and growing them. But on a different note, I got hired by a publisher to write a book. So literally just sent that manuscript in. It's about the art of how to retire early. And nice. So it's interesting because it's more about financial independence than retiring early. Kind of maybe right. Along the lines of what we're talking about here is just creating that system to where you can have the freedom you want to have the life that you want.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on the upcoming book project. Definitely keep us updated on that.
Thanks.
And excited to see what happens as you, and you really haven't hit on it, putting the right people in place. If you read the book, if anybody's read the book, Good to Great, first you got to get the right people on the right bus and then make sure they're on the right seat. And then you can really take it wherever you want. And if that is your goal, to have that ultimate freedom where you can work 4 hours a week and everything's running itself, and you can take that, those profits and earnings and reinvest them into more ventures, your money does start working for you, and you can do that. So kudos to you on all the success so far. But as you know, all good things do come to an end. After all, we are all about freedom on the show. So we don't want to take up too much of your time or too much more of our listeners' time. But before we sign off, it is time for our rapid recommendations for all things related to systems, automation, and freedom. So I've got 6 topics here. I'm going to give you one at a time. You're going to give our listeners one thing for each topic to inspire them to go check out whatever the case may be. So the first item is one book that you would recommend everybody to go check out today.
Ooh, the one book. So you already kind of hit on it earlier, but Rich Dad Poor Dad. I mean, that was just eye-opening for me. There was a kid that had like a comic book store, and he paid another kid to run it. And I'm like, you're never too young, you're never too old to start a business and systematize it.
Awesome. Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you haven't read it, go read it today. That's one of the top 5 in my list as well. What about one quote that you like to live by?
One by Henry Ford, which is, if you say you can or you can't, either way you're right. I think this idea of belief, right? If you don't believe you can do something, then why would you go after it, right? So you got to believe that you can, and then you got to have a plan to actually attack it. And so, and obviously Henry Ford was a pretty influential guy. So I like to, kind of live by those type of quotes.
Yes, he was fairly influential, did a few things. And another quote that I love by him is, you don't always want to ask your customers what they need, because if you asked his customers, they would say they want faster horses or more horses because they didn't even know what a vehicle was. So whether you think you can or you can't, you are correct. We've hit on a few technology tools, but what's a tool that you recommend everybody out there check out for their business?
Other than the ones we mentioned, Evernote would probably be the other one that I use. And the feature that I like about it, though, is being able to dictate. So, literally open up Evernote on my phone and then just start talking. I tried dictation softwares and that kind of thing, and I found that the Google or whatever, probably Apple has the same thing. The recognition is amazing. So
right.
Take notes, write articles, all sorts of stuff within Evernote, and it's free.
Awesome. Totally recommend Evernote as well. You can have it on your phone, on your desktop, laptop, tablet, and they all sync. So no matter where you're at, you have access to it. What about one podcast that you like to listen to?
The Smart Passive Income podcast actually is probably my favorite. I just love how he has a very wide variety of people on there. Talks about SEO, talks about systematizing, talks about social media. I mean, anything, creating courses, whatever it might be. He's got a wide variety there about business. So I really like his.
Perfect. Definitely recommend that as well. Smart Passive Income, Pat Flynn. He's been doing it a while now and always has great guests on. And he has a great way of digging out valuable, actionable information from his guests as well. So good there. What about one community that you like to hang out, whether it's in person, local community, or someplace online?
So Fincon. So this probably isn't for everybody, but it's a community for financial bloggers. It is the best community I've ever been a part of. And the reason being is these are all people that are like looking to help others when it comes to their finances. And there's some people that are business related. There's some people that are actually professionals like accountants, CPA or CFPs, etc. And then there's a lot of people that are just financial writers. And they just basically have the same heart just to help others with money. And so we have this kind of reciprocal, hey, I got this article. Can you help me with it? I'll quote you, and then vice versa. And it's been great.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that as well. And then last but not least, what is one parting piece of advice you have for a business owner out there who is stuck, burned out, or just trying to get over the hump?
Well, know that you're not alone, right? Like, I think that sometimes you think like, oh man, this isn't for me. I can't do it. This sucks. It's, this is too hard. I'm just going to go back. Like, every entrepreneur has faced that at some point, right? Some self-doubt, some challenge or whatever. And so just know that there is a way to do it. And so, I love the story of Roger Bannister. If you get a chance to just look it up, the 4-minute mile, like he's the first guy to run a 4-minute mile. Yeah. Everybody before that thought it was impossible. And then after that, hundreds of
bunch of people did it.
Yeah. So, it's kind of like you have to find that Roger Bannister. So find someone in your industry that's been successful in it and study their business model, study what they did, and then execute. They say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, right? So imitate someone that's been successful in your industry, and you'd be surprised at the results.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that as well. So Deacon Hayes, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to impart some of your knowledge, wisdom, and enthusiasm to our community. Hopefully this helps everyone out there get one step closer to achieving ultimate freedom in their business and in life. But before we sign off, where can our listeners go to keep in touch with you?
Best place is wellkeptwallet.com. And I have a Ask Deacon button. You can go there and I'll answer any email that comes my way.
Awesome. So we'll definitely link that up, wellkeptwallet.com. Or if you want to hang out with him on social media, wellkeptwallet is his handle. Totally recommend it. No matter what kind of financial advice, information you're looking at, getting some good, actionable takeaways. He definitely knows what he's doing. And just a forewarning that it might take a little bit of work and doing something that you're not comfortable doing, like delivering pizzas, but it's all short term to get you where you want to go quicker. So Deacon, thanks again for being here. Everybody else out there, stay tuned for next week's episode as we dive into another fantastic interview with Mary Lou Kaiser from Play Your Position. And if you like what you're hearing, we'd always appreciate a friendly review, subscribe, or share it with your friends if you think it's something they would like. And just a quick reminder, as we mentioned before, all of our show notes you can get by going to our website, paulmaskill.com. And last but not least, if you haven't checked it out already, all of our podcasts are also done in video with no edits, all real, all authentic. So you can check those out by going to Facebook and YouTube as well. So until next time, don't forget that you can also come hang out with us on Facebook at our free Facebook group, bizfreedomformula.com, where we can continue the conversation with like-minded entrepreneurs like the mastermind we were talking about, with people who are putting the plans in place to work less, make more, and achieve ultimate freedom while increasing the value of their business. So until then, keep rocking, trust the process, and talk to you soon.